1 in 3 is intended for mature audiences. Episodes contain explicit content and may be triggering as they often include violence and other varying forms of abuse such as emotional, psychological, sexual, and physical. In most cases, names have been changed to protect all involved. Please note, statements and opinions of guests do not necessarily reflect those of my own. Hi Warriors, welcome to 1 in 3. I'm your host Ingrid. During my interview with bail attorney Ken Good in episode 34, we briefly discussed a case involving the untoward results of bail reform. Today, I delve further into the details of that situation. Here is a story of Caitlynne Guajardo. Before I jump into the story, I want to recap some of the information Ken and I discussed back in March. The United States Constitution strongly maintains innocence until proven guilty. The goal is therefore to allow freedom to offenders while awaiting trial. Of course, in certain circumstances, that would be negligent at best. Therefore, judges are allowed to impose certain conditions to ensure the offender remains behind bars or, if released, returns to court. These conditions may include monetary assurance, known as bonds, supervision, or location surveillance. Bail is a process of releasing offenders while awaiting trial using any of those conditions I just mentioned. Most people, however, understand bail to be synonymous with just monetary bonds. Anyway, bail reform was introduced with the thought that cash bail release can be discriminatory. If an offender is of lower socioeconomic status, they would not be able to meet the monetary bond amount. If you want to get further details regarding this topic, I'm going to refer you back to Ken's episode because he obviously does a much better job explaining it than me. So now, on to Caitlynne. She was married to Daniel Guajardo and shared one child with him in their Pasadena, Texas home. She was 17 weeks pregnant with their second. The family was looking forward to finding out the gender of the new baby. Life behind closed doors was not a happy one for the couple, though. Alex had been known to beat his wife. Melanie Infinger, Caitlynne's mother, had pleaded with her daughter to report the abuse to the police. With one DWI, driving while intoxicated offense, already under his belt, Alex was arrested again in May 2019 for yet another DWI, as well as a hit and run. When in front of the judge, he was released on a personal recognizance, or PR bond. A PR bond is more or less a promise and falls into that bail reform I was just talking about. Once a court verifies the offender's information, such as legal residence and occupation, they may be considered for a PR bond. This offers an opportunity for the individual to provide their signature promising to return to court on their scheduled date to face their charges. They are then released with a $0 or small administrative fee. I want you to pay particular attention to this next part. The judge is also to take prior offenses, degree of crime charged with, either violent or nonviolent, and flight risk into consideration prior to granting a PR bond. As Alex's DWI charges were minimal, it seemed to be a fair determination to release him. Alex didn't maintain good behavior, however. In fact, it wasn't long after his DWI charge that he was arrested again. This time, his offense was for something that held a little more weight. He had brutally beaten his pregnant wife, which included punching her in the face. He had also tortured and killed her cat. Finally conceding to her mom's wishes, Caitlynne called the police, filed a report, and had her husband arrested. Melanie begged her daughter to pack necessities and bring her 8-month-old daughter along to stay at her home. Despite the arrest of her son-in-law, Melanie remained concerned for her daughter and granddaughter's safety. Caitlynne wasn't fazed, though. She knew the legal system was supposed to help victims. She believed she was safe. And why wouldn't she? This man would be presented to a judge with a pending felony and 3 misdemeanor charges. Surely he wouldn't be leaving the jail anytime soon. But Caitlynne was wrong. On August 3rd, 2019, Alex was released on another PR bond just 17 hours after his arrest. Now, what do you think this man with a prior history of domestic violence and utter disregard for human or animal life would want to do as soon as he was free? Your gut is probably telling you something you hope isn't true. Well, Alex immediately returned to the home he shared with his 20-year-old wife and daughter. He did not want someone else to have the opportunity to raise his unborn child, and he certainly couldn't let Caitlynne's disrespect to him go unpunished. He stabbed Caitlynne 20 times deliberately in her stomach, assuring the murder of both his wife and his baby. Following this arrest, he was not released on bond. Within 2 months of being in jail, Alex was found with 2 shanks, or makeshift knives. One was in his sock and one was in his cell. Possession of a lethal weapon in a penal institution is a 3rd-degree felony. Alex decided to accept a plea deal and pleaded guilty to 2 counts of murder in exchange for the possibility of parole. His sentencing actually was just a few weeks ago. He was given 2 life sentences for murder and 10 years for possession of the shanks, all to be served concurrently. He will be eligible for parole after 30 years. I hate presenting yet another tragic ending with disappointing legal actions, but I wanted to highlight the warrior that emerged. Melanie Infinger refuses to let the murder of her daughter and unborn grandchild be in vain. She is working with Pasadena Police Chief Paul Brugger and President of the Houston Police Officers Union, Joe Gamaldi, to get Caitlynne's law passed into Texas legislature. Texas Senator Paul Betancourt is the sponsor of Caitlynne's law. Caitlynne's law would require judges to stop issuing PR bonds to suspects who already had one and set a minimum bond of $10,000 for anyone who's had 3 or more felony charges. Why would Melanie take this on while trying to heal from her personal tragedy? In her words, quote, "In a million years, I never expected to be getting involved in something like this, but I can't rest knowing I didn't at least try to help. If I can save mothers from this debilitating grief, it will be worth the long fight ahead. I urge everyone to join me. Other daughters, mothers, and grandmothers should never have to experience what my family has been forced to endure, a nightmare from which we can never awaken ever since the system failed Caitlynne and her unborn baby." End quote. Thank you for listening. Sources for today can be found in the show notes. I will be back with another episode for you. Until then, stay strong, and wherever you are in your journey, always remember, you are not alone. Find more information, register as a guest, or leave a review by going to the website 1in3podcast.com. That's the number 1, IN, the number 3, podcast.com. Follow 1in3 on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at 1in3podcast. To help me out, please remember to rate, review, and subscribe. 1in3 is a .5 Pinoy production. Music written and performed by Tim Crow.